A recall alert for frozen broccoli from Walmart because of listeria concerns.
You try to eat clean, grab some greens, slice up some fruit, maybe even buy organic. But what if that broccoli came with listeria? What if your fresh salad was sprayed to shine and weeks old? Grocery produce isn't what it used to be, and in some stores it's downright risky. Let's start with one where the shine hides more than the truth. It starts with a promise: easy, fresh, and affordable. Big letters on the store banner, bigger words on the produce aisle signage. Walk into any Food Lion, and that message follows you like a guarantee. But scratch the surface, and something else comes into view. A cucumber that traveled 900 miles before you picked it up. A bag of salad that smells off before dinner. And a misting system that might just be sneezing mildew instead of keeping things crisp. Food Lion sells itself as the neighborhood grocer. Trusted, familiar, maybe even boring. But boring doesn't explain why a store with a double your money back freshness promise has quietly stacked up more Class Wine produced recalls than Publix and Harris Teeter combined since 2023. It doesn't explain why ex-employees are posting truck manifests online showing week-old kale being soaked in cold water and chilled back into life. Or why shoppers across Facebook and Reddit are trading snapshots of strawberries with fuzz, lettuce with gnats, and bananas that seem to rot before they even hit the checkout scanner. Here's where it gets weirder. Food Lion's produce rides a complicated supply chain. Vendors like Robinson Fresh deliver bulk loads to regional warehouses, where items are sorted and shipped again to stores. Sounds normal, right? Until you realize the same pallet of cucumbers might be dropped off at 5 locations in a single morning, sitting in 45-degree limbo while the driver unloads frozen chicken 2 stops ahead. That's not just inefficient, it's dangerous, especially when internal logs show some produce doesn't make it into refrigeration for hours. And when cold cases break, employees have gone viral filming towels stuffed around leak pans while bagged salads sit inches away, still for sale. There's a pattern, and it's not just about distance or downtime. It's about decisions, like the corporate incentive program that rewards stores for chopping up damaged fruit into grab-and-go bowls, even if that pineapple was black-spotted yesterday. Or the manager who, according to one whistleblower, buried moldy onions under fresher potatoes to move the bin faster. And let's not forget the infamous cut kitchen, a backroom cold zone where pre-cut fruit gets chopped and sealed. One slip with a knife, and that cantaloupe isn't just overripe, it's a petri dish. But maybe what's most telling is what they don't say. Food Lion hasn't published a meaningful food safety paper in over a decade. Their freshness guarantee sounds great, but you'll notice it never promises the food is safe, just that you can get your money back. Try refunding a stomach ache. So tell us, have you ever picked up produce from Food Lion that spoiled way too fast? Was it just bad luck or something more? Drop your story in the comments, you're not alone. If this is how freshness looks under a spotlight, wait until you see what's lurking in the next aisle down the food chain. Let's head west, where the apples are misted, the signs scream local, and the strawberries? Well, they might have spent more time in a truck than in the sun. Welcome to Safeway. It looks polished, clean aisles, tidy displays, an upscale vibe that whispers premium. But once you look past the glossy bell peppers and dew-kissed lettuce, the story gets murky and fast. Start with the journey. That box of Driscoll's berries in your cart? Grown in Mexico, handled by dozens of contractors, trucked thousands of miles, and passed through at least one warehouse with heat control violations. And Safeway's own label carrots? They've already had an E. coli scare. Locally grown sounds great until you read the fine print and find a product of Mexico sticker hiding under the farm photo. Here's where it gets worse. In a California distribution center, workers say the loading dock doors hang open while pallets sit in 100-degree valley heat. Lettuce, bananas, berries, waiting their turn, no shade, no seal, no urgency. Inside the stores, the visual game begins. Produce bowls that arrive frozen are left to thaw on display, creating a soft, slimy interior just beneath that firm outer shell. Mist systems? They don't clean the air, they just keep everything looking hydrated. Actual sanitation? Only when the nozzles clog. Mid-shift break, the miracle spray. Managers have access to EPA-registered deodorizers meant to mask rot, not stop it. So if you're smelling something fresh, it might just be Produce Max doing its job a little too well. And then there's rotation theater. A shopper picks up a shiny mango, only to discover the moldy mush hidden beneath. Why? Because older fruit is placed underneath newer stock, and customers aren't supposed to dig. Same goes for fresh-cut trays. Deli workers have gone on TikTok to show repurposed bell peppers being chopped into fajita mix after sitting limp on the shelf. One video hit 1 million views before Safeway made it disappear. We haven't even touched the pests. Rodents in Honolulu, moldy corn in Sacramento, fruit flies in Arizona. Complaints trickle in from all corners, but they rarely go viral unless someone captures the moment on video. Meanwhile, corporate statements stay suspiciously copy-pasted, out of an abundance of caution. You know the line. What's behind all of this? Not a lack of awareness. Safeway's parent company, Albertsons, knows how far food travels, how quotas push employees to cut corners, and how quick fixes like foggers and front-facing rotation hide aging inventory. But their system doesn't seem built to fix the core issue, just to disguise it. So here's a question. Have you ever bought fruit or veggies from Safeway that looked fine, but spoiled the same day? Tell us what happened in the comments. We're betting you're not the only one. Because if frozen fruit bowls, fogger mists, and relabeled origins are what's passing for fresh, what else is hiding behind the shine? Well, what if the answer was dead rodents, broken coolers, and a bag of salad that sat in 90-degree heat for 3 days before hitting the shelf? Let's talk Family Dollar. The name itself sounds innocent, right? Feels like it should smell like discount detergent and canned soup. But in thousands of towns across the US, Family Dollar is the only place within walking distance to grab produce. That makes it more than a bargain store. It's a lifeline. Which is why what happens behind the scenes matters way more than most people realize. Here's the visual. A trailer parked behind the store, dripping with thawed juice and old milk. Inside, crushed chips, smashed bananas, ants crawling up a box of snacks. That's not someone's worst day delivery. It's routine, according to the drivers hauling for them. Some loads sat in that heat for weeks before anyone opened the doors. And it doesn't stop there. Their Arkansas distribution center made headlines after the FDA found, brace yourself, over 1,200 dead rodents inside. Not just a little mouse poop in the corner. Piles of it, carcasses, chewed food. And that same facility had been quietly shipping frozen meals, baby food, and, yes, bagged salad to more than 400 stores for over a year. Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Corporate knew, as early as 2020. They didn't stop shipping. They didn't issue a recall until the FDA showed up with flashlights. That's not just gross. That's criminal. Literally. They pleaded guilty, paid the biggest food safety fine in U.S. history, $41.7 million. Now, you'd think that kind of reckoning would spark a massive overhaul. But what followed? Cooler doors. That's what they announced. Thousands of new doors to keep things fresh. Problem is, they didn't hire more staff to stock them, or even check the temps. Employees call it the crush. Produce pallets dumped in the aisle, waiting hours, sometimes overnight before someone can get to them. And during that wait, the lettuce sweats, the potatoes soften, mold creeps in. Here's a mid-shift curveball. A TikTok showed a Family Dollar worker blending up bruised strawberries into smoothies and slicing slimy peppers into fresh fajita kits. It racked up over 1 million views before disappearing. But screenshots and whistleblowers don't forget. The bigger issue? There's no cold chain integrity. Drivers say salad rides under oil jugs and soda crates. Trailers aren't always refrigerated. Some don't even log temperature. So even if the store's fridge looks clean, what's inside may have already gone bad miles ago. And while all of this unravels, guess who's still shopping there? Everyone with no other choice. In food deserts across America, Family Dollar is it. One shopper called it the only store in town that sells apples. That's not a quirky anecdote. That's public health at stake. So let me ask you this. Have you ever bought produce that looked normal but went bad before you even opened the bag? What store was it? Drop it in the comments. Let's map this out together. Freshness is one thing, but what happens when safety itself gets tossed out the back of the truck? Whole Foods Market was supposed to be the antidote to that. The premium aisle. The health-forward, organic spritzed utopia where nothing slimy dares to survive. But lately, that polished promise is starting to wilt, just like their $6 bunches of arugula by Tuesday. Let's start where the rot really begins, not in the fridge, but in the algorithm. See, after Amazon took over in 2017, Whole Foods shrunk its local sourcing and bet big on centralized shipping hubs and predictive stocking software. Sounds sleek, but it also means your so-called fresh broccoli might have taken a 5-day joyride across the country, sharing truck space with throw pillows and humidifiers. Yes, really. Drivers say the Amazon relay system can leave produce pallets sitting in unrefrigerated terminals, waiting their turn behind general merchandise loads. That's not just a logistics quirk, it's how strawberries end up mushy before the weekend hits. Here's where it gets weirder. Those gentle misters that give kale its dewy runway glow? Not just for show, they're for deception. Produce loses moisture in transit, so Whole Foods rehydrates it with a fine spray. It plumps up the look, sure, but scientists say it also turns those leaves into bacteria hotels. And don't count on those nozzle heads being cleaned either. Biofilms, anyone? Even worse, employees on TikTok have claimed some stores use produce shine sprays to perk up tired apples before opening hours. One clerk says it smells like bleach. No confirmation from Whole Foods, of course, just silence. Now, let's talk about the floor. Whole Foods' sleek order-to-shelf system is built to eliminate backroom waste. Translation: that container of blueberries may have sat on the floor in open air for 45 minutes before making it into the fridge. In one thread, an employee admitted, "We get alerts to restock almond milk while berries are sweating in crates." Priorities. But let's not forget the pests. In April 2025, their flagship Cupertino store, yes, the one near Apple HQ, was shut down for a full 8 weeks after inspectors found rodent droppings, cockroaches, and gnats swarming the produce corridor. Pictures of sticky traps filled with bugs made the rounds online. Not a good look for a brand that charges $4.99 for an avocado. Oh, and the sticker swaps? Multiple employees have confessed that when organic SKUs sell out, they're encouraged to relabel conventional produce instead. It's what the customer came in for, one Redditor said. But when you're paying extra for clean, chemical-free greens, that switch isn't just sneaky, it's straight-up betrayal. And if you think that's rare, know this. Whole Foods has racked up dozens of violations across New York and DC, ranging from unchilled bins to mislabeled origins. So next time you pick up that shiny apple with a local sign, check the sticker. Chilean peppers have been caught hiding under Florida tags before. So let me ask you this. Have you ever paid a premium for produce that spoiled faster than the budget stuff? Where was it? And how did it make you feel? Drop your story below. Let's expose this illusion together. If the last place made you uneasy, this next one might just make you reconsider what food safe really means. Giant is a name you see on hundreds of grocery store signs across the mid-Atlantic. But here's the twist. There are actually two Giants. One is Giant Food out of Maryland. The other is the Giant Company in Pennsylvania. Different headquarters, same parent company, same supply chain, and the same shiny promises about freshness. Behind those polished end caps, though, is a system stretched thin, designed for speed and cost-cutting rather than care. Picture this. A truck of lettuce leaves a farm in Yuma, Arizona. 5 days later, it's in a Maryland cooler, stacked under pallets of apples from Washington State. Another day or two and it's in your local Giant store, spritzed by a mister that's supposed to make it look farm fresh. But as one former clerk bluntly put it, "We don't have time to rotate properly, we just top it off so it looks full." Translation: that bag of salad you grabbed on a Tuesday could already be on borrowed time. And let's talk about what happens when the rotation game fails. Philadelphia inspectors had to slap a cease operations sticker on Giant's heirloom market last year after finding mouse droppings in the produce cooler and cut fruit sitting above safe temperatures. Think about that for a second. Your pre-cut pineapple marinating next to gnawed packaging. Customers caught the aftermath on video and TikTok ate it up. Giant called it isolated. Inspectors called it an imminent health hazard. But rodents aren't the only issue. Giant's equipment has its own dirty secrets. Those gentle meisters making cucumbers glisten. Employees say the sprayers never get sanitized unless they clog, meaning they can become little bacteria fountains. When Lancaster Foods, one of Giant's main suppliers, had to recall kale and collard mixes for Listeria, it wasn't just a supply problem. It was a reminder that once contamination sneaks in, the store's own habits don't always stop it. There's also the quiet shell game with labels. Buy local signs might make you think your corn came from a nearby farm. But just below the surface, you'll find Mexican zucchini and Peruvian asparagus parked under local favorites banners. It's not illegal, but it's misleading, and the trust gap grows with every clever sign. Even when produce is technically safe, Giant has a way of stretching its shelf life to the edge. Bruised bananas and tired cucumbers, off they go to the fruit cups or the deli bar, sometimes with a miracle spray of citric acid to keep the color bright. Looks fresh, tastes like yesterday's mistake. So, when you grab that polished apple or that clamshell of grapes, ask yourself, how many days has this been on the road in a cooler under a mister? And how much of that freshness is just wax and wishful thinking? Would you still shop here if you knew your salad might have shared a cooler with rodents? Let us know in the comments. Rotten fruit is one thing. What's next has nothing to do with mold, but it might leave a worse taste in your mouth. Trader Joe's. The name alone triggers an image. Quirky snacks, cheeky labels, Hawaiian shirts, a guy named Steve offering you a mini cup of free coffee near the sample station. But peel back the banana sticker, and you're left with something that doesn't smell so sweet. Start with this. 19 recalls in just 2 years. That's nearly one every 5 weeks. Salads, cheese, soup, cookie dough, rocks in falafel, plastic in acai bowls, flies in frozen potatoes. And if you're thinking, well, at least they pull them fast, not always. Some insiders say those products sit on shelves for days after internal tests come back dirty. Here's where it gets messier. Produce that's technically fine until you bring it home. Trader Joe's berries have a cult following until they dissolve into juice 12 hours after purchase. Reddit calls them the ticking time bombs of the fruit world. One customer said her strawberries molded in the checkout line. And it's not just anecdotal. Food editors and testers have called it out too, blaming plastic packaging that traps moisture and turns every clamshell into a little greenhouse of rot. Now you'd think a store with this kind of churn would prioritize refrigeration, right? Not exactly. Trader Joe's famously skips the backroom cooler and goes straight from truck to shelf. That's fine until the truck's late, or warm, or sitting with busted equipment, which OSHA says happens more often than they'd like. One citation literally reads, "Perishables left exposed above safe temps." And you better believe that lettuce wasn't heading to the compactor. Even the fresh look is a bit of an illusion. TJ's doesn't use sprayers like most chains. They rely on shrink wrap and their in-house produce wash, which sounds innocent until you realize it masks wilting leaves and extends shelf life just long enough to get it through the register. One ex-employee called it lipstick on a dying salad. Meanwhile, damaged goods don't always go in the trash. Anonymous crew members say bruised bananas, wrinkled peppers, and expired mushrooms often get a second life, diced into salsa, stuffed into frozen meals, or sautéed into quiches. Not illegal. But if your produce needed a miracle spray to pass inspection, do you want it reincarnated in your burrito bowl? And for a store obsessed with private label purity, Trader Joe's offers remarkably little transparency. No QR codes, no supplier disclosures. You know the salad's Trader Joe's organic, but not where it came from, how it was grown, or why it spoils faster than a 4th of July popsicle. Most chains give you a trail. TJ gives you a shrug and a smile. So here's a question. If a store gives you a full refund every time your fruit liquefies, is that good customer service or a band-aid on a problem they'd rather not fix? That was ugly. But next, we're looking at a store where the real rot isn't in the lettuce. It's in the entire distribution chain. Let's talk about Walmart, the largest grocer in America, and depending who you ask, the least appetizing place to buy a tomato. From the outside, it's convenience, low prices, and a rainbow of produce piled high under bright lights. But up close, it's a different story. Cracked misters dribbling stagnant water, strawberries sweating inside sealed clamshells, moldy corn that looks like it survived a possum attack. If you've ever picked up a bag of grapes only to find one disintegrating mid-grab, yeah, welcome to Walmart's produce section. Employees will tell you rotation is a nice idea until 3 pallets show up at once and there's one person on the floor. So what happens? Old limp lettuce goes right on top. Shriveled peppers get tucked behind new ones. As one worker put it, we fill holes. We don't check dates. That's not what they pay us for. Here's where it gets weirder. Multiple ex-staff say produce that's too far gone to sell straight up gets repurposed. Slimy zucchinis diced into veggie trays. Wilted greens tossed into deli salads. The logic? Better to sell it half disguised than toss it and hurt shrink numbers. And yes, there are supposed to be rules, expiration logs, visual inspections. But when you're racing to stock 40 feet of shelving in 30 minutes, the zucchini wins by default. And about those misters, according to insiders, they rarely get cleaned. Mister nozzles crusted with calcium, drainage pipes with visible biofilm. One associate said the cleaning schedule gets skipped so often, you know it's time when you smell the back wall from the registers. Delicious. Oh, and if you think cold storage is the safety net, think again. In Missouri, inspectors found broken cooler seals. In Arizona, staff say fruit flies swarm the banana room. On TikTok, a woman sprayed bug killer on fly-covered produce before security showed up. Pest control via aerosol. That's a new one. And somehow, it still gets worse. Walmart recently paid up to $45 million to settle claims it overcharged shoppers on produce by fudging weights, grapes heavier than labeled, clearance items ringing up full price, all while selling local oranges from 2 states away and organic eggs from hens who never saw sunlight. Legally dodgy? Maybe. Logistically sloppy? Definitely. But here's the thing. Walmart isn't broken because someone forgot to clean the lettuce bin. It's broken because the whole system is built for speed and scale. Move it fast, sell it cheap, patch the holes with refunds and PR statements. Freshness just doesn't fit into that equation. So next time you see a perfect tomato gleaming under those misting lights, maybe ask how many trucks, how many days, how many shortcuts it took to get there. Have you ever picked up produce at Walmart and gotten home to find it already rotting? Drop the horror stories below. we know you've got one. One store's disaster might be written off as an outlier, but the next one, it's not an accident, it's a business model. Kroger is what happens when scale meets sloppiness and both decide to stay for dinner. Step into the produce section at your local Kroger, and you'll see what they want you to see. Stacks of avocados misted just right, shiny limes, crisp kale, but spend 2 extra minutes? That's when the curtain lifts. A soft bell pepper that dents like wet foam. A bag of salad so puffed it's practically fermenting. Fruit flies orbiting the organic bananas like they're staging a coup. Behind those bright shelves is a massive machine, 55 distribution centers, thousands of miles, and a clock that only ever speeds up. Produce zips from farm to shelf through 3 facilities and still has to look fresh enough to fool you. And when that doesn't work, that's where Appeal and Lush Produce Max come in. Coatings and sprays designed not to preserve food, but to preserve appearances. Here's where it gets unsettling. Kroger has been spraying limp greens with hypochlorous acid to make them pop again. That's the same stuff hospitals use to sanitize wounds, except now it's making your spinach look less sad. And Appeal? It forms an invisible barrier that seals in freshness, or seals in decay, depending on when you ask. Cold chain standards? Written down. But on the floor, it's leaking misters, busted coolers, and condensation dripping through stained ceiling tiles right into the zucchini bin. There's even a case where a technician's hands froze to the coolant line during repairs. If that doesn't make you squirm, maybe the idea of cucumbers laced with salmonella will. Because, yep, that happened too. But what do they do with aging produce that can't be saved with mist or magic? Repurpose it. Unsellable salad bar leftovers turned into deli fillings. Slimy kale rerouted to hoagies. That bin of expired ribs? Cooked again, chilled, and put back out for a second shot. Food waste? Technically reduced. Food safety? We're rolling dice. Meanwhile, the price tags are doing their own dance. Old sales that never get removed. Local labels slapped on produce from hundreds of miles away. One class action lawsuit even claimed Kroger sold beef from Mexico under product of USA tags. This isn't just a few flukes, it's a pattern, a very profitable one. And when complaints pile up, when someone finds a mouse among the tortillas or reports a swarm of gnats hovering over the berries, Kroger points to its freshness guarantee. Just bring it back, they say, get a refund. But here's a thought. What if you didn't have to return that spinach in the first place? So tell me, have you ever peeled back a simple truth label and found something not so simple? Maybe something that smelled a little off or moved when it shouldn't have? Drop your stories in the comments. Don't hold back. I'll see you in the next video.